Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Photo. On this episode, it's all about minding your own business, productivity tools. This is TWiP. Hey, welcome back to TWiP. I'm Frederick Van Johnson. All right, this show is going to be really fun, and I think I get a lot out of every show that we do. This one in particular, I feel like I'm going to get a ton out of because as sort of people that live on the internet, content creators, creatives, etc., we all have sort of a concoction or a salad of tools that we use to get through the day. Some of them everyone knows about, some of them only we know about because they're on our phones or on our desktops or laptops or tablets or whatever. We're going to talk about that stuff first. This is the first in a series of Mind Your Own Business sort of shows that I'll be doing. This first one, like I said, is going to tackle productivity tools. Subsequently, the upcoming shows that I do in this series will focus on marketing, accounting, all that kind of stuff. So keep your eye out for the productivity or for the Mind Your Own Business series. But without further delay, let me introduce my two co-hosts here. We've got Julio Shorio and Clay Cook. Hey guys, how you doing?
What's up?
Howdy.
What's up? All right, look at you guys. All right, you guys both look fantastic because you got the pro gear going, the pro lighting. Julio's going high key, and Clay is going low key. Look at that.
I'm all about the drama tonight.
All about the drama. And the mic that I want. I asked Santa for that mic. I want that mic. That mic will be mine. See that mic, ladies and gentlemen? This mic that I've done 500 episodes on is going to be upgraded to that Shure mic that my friend Clay Cook is bragging about right there. All right, guys, before we get started, let's do some quick intros. Julio, why don't you go first, man? Tell us what you got going on, what's loaded in your cannon, ready to shoot over the next couple of months.
A lot of antibiotics. I just got over pneumonia, so I'm alive.
Oh, geez, what?
Yeah, I had it for 3 weeks, dude. I was like spiraling, but I'm here. I'm here.
Man,
Well,
thank
thank
goodness. You sound better.
Thanks. If I mute myself, it's because I'm hacking. Apologize, but I just got done going through my vision file. You can see I got some of my photos up there on the wall. 700 photos, actually. Good Lord, I went through all these.
Oh, geez.
I did it analog, and I got a new portfolio site up. I did it with Adobe Portfolio this time. It's another episode, I guess.
We'll have to talk about that. I want to hear about your experiences with that.
Yes, it's an experience. But I got that done. It was brutal. I documented it all, and I put it in the small camera, big picture community. It's like 6 hours. I'm like perspiring and just like getting all intense. So it's a real intense process when you really dive into your own work, like emotionally, all sorts of things come up. Yeah. But in the meantime, I also got my first book done and ready to go.
What is the title of that? What is that? I didn't see it.
It's Faces of Chinatown.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Cool. Very cool.
It'll be up for sale soon on Amazon. I got my ISBN going on and the whole bit, but yeah, and then just cracking and small camera, big picture in the community and having a good old time.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on all that stuff, man, and welcome to the show. It's good to have you on.
Thanks. Here. Oh, and one last thing, because a lot of people are like, how do you make a living with street photography? Since I've kind of transitioned more into street and documentaries from commercial, but I got my second commission from a museum, so that's pretty dope.
Nice.
So,
real money.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, museum money.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Also on the show, Mr. Clay Cook, man, over there low key. What's going on?
What's up?
What camera are you using, man? Your camera looks better than mine. I don't like that.
It's Logitech.
Is that the Logitech? Oh, yeah, I see it. I see that's a Logitech. Yeah. Very cool.
It's nothing special. It's all in this beautiful Kino I have going on. It's all in the lighting.
Giant softbox over there. Well, what's going on with you, man? I published that interview you and I did earlier this week.
I know, and really appreciate that, and appreciate you having me on again. I was stoked when you asked me. So no, I love chatting, love talking photography and business and all that madness. So appreciate you having me on.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for coming on. What's going on in your world? You've got all kinds of projects. I mean, you're doing stuff for Delta, Papa John's Pizza, TEDx. You're speaking at what aren't you doing, man?
Well, TEDx, I did TEDx a couple months ago, so that's about ready to drop online, which I'm pretty excited about that engagement that I did there and that activation. It was really cool. It was a really awesome experience. You know, the thing is, like, when you talk with Ted, like, you have to have a point.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of work. I put a lot of work into that what was it? It was like, mine was like about 16 minutes. So yeah, it was really good. It was about visual storytelling and how the importance of it and the responsibility that we all have as photographers, because I believe that we're all photographers now, not only just us as professionals, but everyone, because we're all shooting pictures. So yeah, I did that, and then I've got this Delta gig, potentially, fingers crossed. We're still kind of in that process, working on that, and then got a big trip coming up in Bangladesh, doing some work there in the nonprofit sector. So
well, this is perfect, because each of you guys is doing something different, and you're approaching your photography different. Like Clay, it's awesome that your TEDx Louisville talk was about, you know, this sort of storytelling thing, because that's what you and I talked about in our interview. So that kind of shows this thread of what you do, sort of weaving through what's going on. And Julio, we always talk about, well, street photography is awesome, but where does the money come from other than, you know, what you find on the street while you're doing street photography? And you guys are crushing it. So welcome on. And the topic of this, like I said, is mind your own business, and we're going to focus on productivity tools. And, you know, beyond the photography, and I think this episode will likely be sort of applicable to, you know, any other genre of whatever people are doing, you know, because it's productivity is what we, as either, you know, whether you're in corporate America or you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, creative person, or whatever, it's key to staying sane. You know, managing your calendar, managing your to-do list, staying on top of things, reaching out to clients, marketing yourself, all that stuff, beyond just getting the fun of getting behind the camera and taking pictures. So Clay, I want to start with you, man. So, you know, when take me through, I don't want to know exhaustively what's on your, you know, the tools that you're using, but for calendaring, let's start with that one. Calendaring and to do. Like on my side, people yell at me, like Troy Miller he's on the show all the time. He will yell at me for using Google products because he doesn't trust Google products. But I don't think I could do what I'm doing without Google products, including YouTube, which people are watching us on right now. So Clay, tell me about that. How do you manage your day in terms of scheduling things out and then the minutia of the to-do list?
Well, I kind of actually love the system that I have going on, because I work with a team a lot. So I have both assistants and interns, and I'm always working in sort of a team atmosphere. We're always kind of like pushing towards these initiatives and whatnot. And so we use Slack, which is a great sort of program to communicate if you're working with a team. And then I use a TeamUp calendar, calendar system, which actually syncs to my Apple calendar, which is mostly what I use personally. I don't use Google that much, honestly, but, you know, I mean, there's so many options out there now that you could use a billion different things. But
do you not use Google for like religious or philosophical reasons?
No, it's just, I don't know. I've always just used the Apple calendar, and then it sort of syncs over to the TeamUp calendar, in which my entire team can kind of see what we have on the docket for the day, or photo shoots, or if we have planning meetings, or we have, you know, whatever needs to get done. And then that also syncs with sort of what we call the software Wunderlist, which is sort of our small goals lists. We sort of assign tasks and we do things like that. So those are sort of my biggest productivity apps as Wunderlist, Slack, and TeamUp, and that sort of all syncs with my personal calendars and personal to-do lists. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
And Julia, what about you on the calendar and to-do list side of things? What sort of rounds out your suite of apps?
Well, I also use Apple Calendar mainly. I do Google Calendar when I need to. It's not that I don't like it. I like it, but I've always been using Apple Calendar, and I've tried so many different other things, and I always keep coming back. It's like it's like the mafia, you know, what is it? What's the saying? You try to get out and you keep pulling you back in. I like the Apple Calendar. For me, it's simple, and I use shared calendars. I also use the to-do list for personal and work stuff. So if I need to share items for a shoot, I can share that. If I need to share, like I have a shared shopping list with my wife.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know. It does what I needed to do, and I don't need anything sophisticated. I just need it to sync. And that's pretty much it. So that's, you know, and then just for email, I just use the basic Apple Mail app.
Yeah. See, that's interesting because I'm kind of in the same boat that you guys are in, but not, because I use Google. I use the Google or Google Calendar sort of as like my baseline calendar, and then I connect to it with an app called Fantastical that runs on my iPad, my phone, and on the Mac, and it runs as a little toolbar. The thing I like about Fantastical is that it understands, and I think Apple Calendar might do this as well, but it understands natural language. So I could say, you know, set up a meeting with Julio for next Thursday at 3. We're going to talk about lunch or whatever. And it'll understand all that and build the calendar event for me, all from the menu bar with right in Mac OS. Or I can just type it or speak into it from my devices. So I use that. And then I'm with you, Clay, on the Wunderlist side. Wunderlist is fantastic. That's also on all my devices, and I use it to share to-do lists. I use it to keep myself organized. I use it to set reminders for myself, all that stuff. So yeah, it works. So which of those tools can't you guys live without? So like on the to-do side, and you know, the other thing with the to-dos, all three of us are using sort of different to-dos solutions, but on This Week in Photo, sort of to manage everything, the tools that we all use for our sort of personal lists I find them too limiting. So I've expanded out to using Trello for those larger tasks where there's tasks within tasks, and then within the individual tasks, there are a bunch of things that need to get done and attachments and all that stuff. It seems to work. And it's free, right? It seems to work really well for that. So, Clay, on the to-do list side of things, are you able to get? I mean, you're busy, man. You're traveling the world, and you know, philanthropy, all this crazy stuff going on. That doesn't fit in Wunderlist. Like, how do you manage all that?
Well, actually, you know, that's a good question. I don't know.
You're going to start crying. You're like, I can't manage it.
You're like, I have so much to do. I don't, I kind of, you know, it's interesting. Like I kind of try to prioritize it. And so for me, I have long-term goals that I have in Wunderlist, and then that's broken down by small goals, and then the small goals are sort of broken into to-do lists. So and I just create separate lists for that. I'm always able to figure it out in Wunderlist. Now, if I have like daily tasks and stuff I need to do, I honestly just write them down, the good old school, you know, pen and paper or in a note or something like that. I have one of these desks that you can actually write on. It's like a marker board.
Yeah.
So it's called Updesk, Upright Updesk. It's pretty sweet. And so I can just take a marker and just literally write on my desk itself.
What's it called?
So
again?
yeah, you'll see all this like markups and all these bubble charts and all this other stuff a lot of times on my desk. So but you know, like at the end of the day, I make sure to erase it and, you know, kind of start with a clean slate every day. So, but Wunderlist kind of keeps those like long-term and the to-dos and the small goals kind of in one place. Otherwise it would be crazy. I don't think I could keep it straight.
Yeah. Gee, what about you, man? Like, how are you, you know, museum installations and all this other stuff? How does that fit into Apple's to-do list? Do you have anything more robust that you use to sort of keep track of high levels of detail?
Yeah, I use Evernote. That's like, if there's one app I can't live without, it's Evernote. Like I would probably leave Apple for Windows if Evernote was no longer available for Apple. It's just something that I use I use Evernote more than anything. And I know there's some people like, Evernote's going down. I'm like, dude, what a bunch of crap. It's still there. And you know, and until they turn that sucker off, man, I'm on it. I've been using it since like 2006 or 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the biggest like advantage of Evernote? Just I've never actually opened the app, but I've heard so much about it. I'm just actually very curious.
Well, I mean, it used to be just for notes, and now it's like for a lot of different things. And so people are like, oh, it's bloated. But I mainly have an inbox that whenever I capture notes, whether it's through like email, I can forward receipts or just important emails for a project. I can clip things on the web. I can take photos and just kind of put it all into like an inbox. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of sort through it at the end of the day or at the end of the week and kind of make more sense of it. And I can invite other people to that notebook, and we could share and chat on that.
Yeah.
I also use Google Docs for a lot of that stuff too. So I'll just kind of make basically a blank note, and everyone just starts throwing stuff in there too. It really depends on, because not everybody uses Evernote, and if someone is new to Evernote, I want to be like, you got to come use Evernote. Yeah. But most everybody has used Google Docs, and if not, they probably have it and don't know they have it. So
yeah, I tried it, man. I tried Evernote, and I don't want to crap on Evernote or anything, but it was just, I think it was too free form for me. Like, I need some structure, and it was just like, oh, you just throw all your stuff in there and go search for it. It's got robust searching and all that. I need a little bit of structure so that I can grab onto, you know?
You can search handwriting though.
I don't handwrite anything, but that's a good, I do handwrite stuff. So like when I'm doing shows like this, I'm writing notes about what we're talking about, and I use that later to do the show notes and all that stuff. But that's a good point, because we're talking about all these digital tools. And for me, I start my day normally with, I have one of these notebooks, and I sort of write down on one page all the things that need to get done. And then it's sort of cathartic to scratch them off versus just checkbox it off, you know, like to scratch it off. It's like, oh, I did that. It's done. And then you end up with a page full of lines of stuff that you scratched off versus just checkboxes that randomly disappear. And then if things don't get done, I transfer them to the next day and rewrite the list. So the action and the pain of rewriting that list, it sort of hammers it into your head that you should have gotten this done yesterday. You know, do you guys do anything like that? I mean, do you have any analog things that you do?
You know, it's so funny you mentioned that, like, because I do that on my desk here, but that so on Wunderlist, it has that like ding.
Yeah.
Like, that's almost like a drug for me. Is like, I want to get that ding. Like, I gotta get that. You know, like it's one of those things that I strive for more than actually the list is like. It's like when I check something off, it feels so good just to hear that ding. You know, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Like scratching off, like tangibly having something is very effective.
Yeah, I used to do that when I was at Apple too. I mean, every day I would just like go sit down and like, okay, with the coffee, it's like, okay, these are things I need to get done, and these are things I didn't get done yesterday, and these are hot. Let me write those in red. You know, surrounded by technology. Obviously, I still did that. So guys, let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about travel. Both of you guys travel a fair amount. All three of us travel a fair amount, and travel, let's say 10 years ago, is different than travel was today. There's some pluses and minuses, baggage fees and all that stuff would be the minus. Pluses would be technology to help us get from flight to flight, manage the whole thing and all that. Do you guys use any, like Julie, I'll start with you. Do you use any sort of services to help you get things booked, like Expedia? Are you calling the airline, with an analog phone? How do you roll that way?
No, I keep it simple. I mean, if I'm doing domestic travel, my preference is Southwest. I have a Southwest business card. All my points go on there. I try, anything. I prefer to travel them. I just like the way it works for me. So I just use their app and I just book, on their app. That's mainly how I do it. If I haven't done international in some time, but when I do, it's usually like British Airways is my preference.
British Airways, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just use their app for that too. Or Virgin. Well, I don't think Virgin's around anymore, but
yeah. Are you doing anything like with using the what do you call it, the cards or whatever in the iPhone where you can have your boarding pass?
Right.
There? You doing that?
Yeah,
stuff
I'll do that. I used to do it with the Apple Watch. I don't really care for it anymore because I'm kind of like I'm holding stuff usually and I'm going through and I'm kind of like turning my.
Wait, you could do that with an Apple Watch?
You can. You totally can. I did it once, and I'll tell you, walking through that line, and it's everyone else has their paper boarding passes or their phones, you know, and the phone is sort of douchey enough, but you're that guy that gets up and like, I have an Apple Watch, allow me, and then it doesn't scan right away, you know? It's like, you're like, oh, sorry, I'm using technology.
What is this guy doing?
Yeah, and then the person behind you has a ratty printed out boarding pass, and they're just like, boop, and they're in, you know? So,
that's me.
Yeah, exactly. So I went back to the old way. You know, sometimes technology doesn't work for us. But what about you, Clay, man? Do you have any special magic that you use for like getting around the world whenever you book travel, etc.?
Not really. You know, I'm kind of the same way. It's like I'm like kind of stick to the brand loyalty a little bit, depending on like the points and the cards I've got. You know, like international travel, I usually stick with United. Domestically, I'm usually with Southwest, so that's kind of stick with that. And unless it's like something that a client's booking it or something like that, but you know, I've got all the loyalty programs, and I try to like, you know, make sure I'm trying to get points where I can, you know. But no, I'm just kind of old school. I like the piece of paper. I like the tangible stuff in my hands. But I do have everything digital except. This is kind of a travel tip. I didn't know if you guys know this, but TSA doesn't actually accept anything in digital form. Like if you can't, they don't accept your ID, they don't accept a passport, they don't accept anything like that from your phone or whatnot. But if you have anything to identify yourself from that's a piece of paper, like something that's tangible, they'll take that. So if you have your name on a pill bottle or your name on a piece of mail, they'll take that over your passport that's scanned to your phone. So what I generally do is have my passport in my sole of my right shoe, no matter where I go in the world. So in case I lose my identification or lose it somehow, I always have some sort of tangible form of identification.
That's a good tip. Yeah, and I want to talk about traveling as a photographer and some of the challenges and tips that go along with that. One tip that I would throw out there on sort of logistics of traveling and booking is I use a service called TWiP, TRIPIT.com, and they're cool because you can I have to book a trip to Ohio in the next day or so, and it's, you know, I can book the ticket, just forward it to plans@TWiP.com. It knows who I am and knows all their users, so it'll match that itinerary to the from, and they basically look at the email and then reformat it into their system. So all I do is, you know, book a Southwest flight or whatever and forward the itinerary to plans@TWiP.com. And then same with hotel reservations. You forward that in and it finds the right time, like, oh, his flight lands here. Let's put that in here. Same with the rental car. It'll slide it all in there. And then the net result of that is all of your confirmation numbers, when you check in, check out times, phone numbers to the hotels, weather at your different destinations. It's all in the app. So
wow.
Yeah, so that, and along with the airline app, so I can, you know, obviously check in or use a printed boarding pass, but I always know what's next. I know, oh, yeah, my next, especially when you're doing multiple hop flights, you're like, okay, the time changed here and I got to be here, and then how much time do I have between these flights? You know, it calculates all that stuff, and all you do is pull out your phone and it's like, oh, okay, it's gate A74 and I got a 75-minute layover. Cool. You know, and you move over to the next thing. So that's it.
That's cool. What's it called?
It's called TWiP, TWiP.com, TRIPIT. Yeah, I recommend them highly. I've been using them for years and years, and it's saved my butt many, many, many times.
Write that down on the desk right now.
There you go. Julio, while Clay's writing on his desk, let's talk about travel and some tips that you might have around navigating airports with camera gear. Like, do you check all your camera gear in and trust TSA and the baggage handlers to it, or do you bring it on the plane with you? What's your MO?
No, if I'm carrying, I mean, ideally, I rent or hire a tech on location and have them handle it locally.
Yeah.
But I always bring a personal camera or two with me. However, when I used to assist a photographer, a friend of mine, Steve Sanacor, he would do all the catalog shoots for sandals. We would do shoots in Jamaica and Antigua and whatever, and he would have to bring a ton of gear because it's not like there's a camera store, in nearby.
Right.
So we would have to have a big manifest, and then work with the producer, and we get that to the handler basically that is local to the area, and then they would give it to the security there, and it was like, so it was a big deal. But we would never ever check cameras. You always carry it with you. So I'm like, if I have cameras on my person, someone's gonna have to take me down to take it away from me. But if it's a grip's pretty strong stuff. Sandbags, obviously, you don't ship them loaded. Cables, that stuff, that can all get beat up pretty good. But you never, ever check a camera.
No, or a computer or anything that you don't mind losing.
Unless you want to end up like in a Petapixel article about, I had a $7,500 Leica lens and I thought I'd check it, and son of a gun, it got ripped off the mount. And you're like, dude.
Yeah. What about when you're at your destination? And I'm asking this for a friend who's in the chat room, Christopher Berry, who recently came back from an international trip. And Chris knows what happened. Let's just say he came back lighter than he did when he left, much lighter. And we're talking, weight wise and bank account wise. So Julio, what like when you're there, if depending, you could be at Sandals or you could be in Barcelona or whatever. What are some steps that you take to make sure that you come back with everything you left with?
Well, I usually don't go with a lot of gear. If I'm just doing a trip for myself, I'll take a camera and a few small lenses, and I just keep it all on my person. Like it doesn't leave. And if it's a bag that goes around my back, it's a bag that you can't easily get into. I have certain clothing items that are made by a company called PackSafe that if I got memory cards and I shoot, and I'll keep a copy in the clothing that's tear-proof, and you have a metal mesh that can't be cut. Thank God I don't want to get cut, but no. I usually don't have problems, and all, but I'm also not. I try to blend in. I don't try to be like your regular. I leave my Birkenstocks at home, I guess. How's that sound? I'm not like, hey, let's go take a pet. I'm not saying I was Christopher, but you're not walking around with your Nikon strap or your whatever strap with the camera brand on it, kind of thing. I'm not a big brand guy, anyways. I'm really not. Not since they're not paying me anymore. So I keep it all in the DL.
Yeah, Clay, what about you, man? When you're at a destination, or start from the airport. When you're traveling, what are some travel safe tips? I'm sure you don't pack stuff in check bags either, but what's your flow there? And then when you get there, how do you make sure you came back with what you left with?
Yeah, I mean, if I have to fly, then which is a lot of the trips that I have the opportunity to do, fortunately, then I'm traveling as light as possible. I really am. I'm trying to break all this down, and then if I can bring an assistant or the budget calls for it, then I will, and then that just adds up another body who can take more gear on them. I have had an experience where I had to check a camera bag once. I think it was in Europe somewhere, Germany, I believe. And yeah, I mean, I was trying everything in my power to nope, not gonna happen. And they ended up forcing. They weren't gonna. They were like, you're not flying if you don't check this bag. So it made it safely. Everything was cool. So I think it is important to pack your stuff to prepare it just in case it does get checked. But so that means just not throwing your stuff in a case and just expecting that. It'll be safe and on you the whole time. But yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement there with that. You just want to try to keep it on you at all times as much as possible. Always know where your gear is. Never leave it alone. And just, or if it's with somebody, it's somebody who you trust. That's going to watch over it.
Well then, if you're traveling and you're someplace exotic, presumably you don't want to take all your stuff with you all the time, right? So at some point you want to go to dinner or hang out or otherwise take your photographer hat off for a second. What do you do then? Do you guys trust the hotel safes? Do you put it with the concierge? What's the MO?
Safe if you can. If the concierge has their own safe, I mean, that's just another, that's more risky than having a safe. Those safes are usually pretty small. Yeah. And if you got a DSLR or if you got a phase, what are you going to fit in there, man? Yeah. You know, you're going to fit a passport in like a belt, you know? Right. So yeah, you know, leave it with an assistant or somebody that if they're your tech and they're going to be managing batteries and you know, going through your library and, you know, cleaning up the rejects and all that, just leave it with them. And then, you know, if you're in a humid area, then the next morning before everyone goes to, you know, breakfast, they, you know, usually put it out on the balcony, let it warm up. Yeah. And stuff from the humidity, and you know, you just and never ever put your gear in a car, okay? Even in a trunk, people see you, okay? There are people they see you, and you will not. You'll come back, and it won't be there. Yeah. And you know, they see you. You just gotta.
That happened.
What's that?
I said that happened to us in Oakland. We were in Oakland, and it was in our trunk, in a secured SUV trunk. We had about, oh man, it was like several cases, all big, you know, hard shell, you know, protection cases. And we were about 5 feet, about 10 feet away from the truck flying a drone, and somebody ripped us off.
Damn.
Yeah. They got all the cases in the trunk, and I don't believe, I just, to this day, I don't understand how it happened, because we were literally 10 feet away from the truck. But I guess they happened to do it while we were flying this drone, and we were both paying attention to it. And my assistant was on the phone at the same time. We were just distracted, and it happened. So you're absolutely right. Don't put stuff in the car if you can't do it, you know, if you can help it.
Yeah. I mean, avoid that, you know, putting in the car for sure. I'll keep, like, I have a backpack that has my daily backpack that I run around with. It's got all my stuff in it, usually a laptop and a bunch of other things in there. If I have to leave it in the car, like I have to go someplace where I don't want to be the guy walking around the store with a backpack, then I have a black sort of beach towel thing that's like light absorbent. So literally it's in the car. So I will put my bag on the seat, or not on the seat, but on the floor on the front of the car, and put that on top of it. So if someone peeks through the windows are already tinted, but if they peek through the windows, they're not going to see any detail of anything in the car that's worth breaking into the car for. So
what car are you driving again?
My Maserati. Yeah, that's just the one. It's the bright red one, you know, with FVJ on the license plate. You remember?
Right. Yeah, with the Knight Rider thing on the front.
Yeah, the battery kit's still in there. All right, guys. So since we're talking about gear, right? We're talking about the sort of, you know, theft of gear and all that. And I want to switch it to traveling light. So you're the king of traveling light. You were the king of mirrorless, you know, small camera, bigpicture.com. Apple just released new iPads, which, you know, are getting some pretty good reviews, and people are saying that these are the most powerful iPads ever. They rival 90% or more of the personal computers or laptops that are being sold today in terms of raw horsepower. Adobe has announced that a full version of Photoshop will be available for this thing. So it's getting serious with these things, right? These are like full. So how does that change things? Jay, I want to start with you, man. Are you used to wave the flag of doing everything mobile? Are you still there? And does that make sense in the context of the nimble traveler?
It depends on the work you want to do. Now, I will say that until the software takes advantage of the hardware, I'm really happy with my Gen 1 iPad Pro 12.9 inch because
See, you're becoming that old curmudgeon dude. Well, you're like, this iPad is all I need.
No. The software is the same. That's the thing. It may run a little faster, but I think by springtime, I'm hoping that Adobe gives some love to photographers, you know, because we're here. Hi, Adobe. I don't know if they care about us anymore, but if they do, and they put a really rad update out that does something, I don't know, like tether, you know, that would be cool. But there has to be software updates, like unless you use like a Narbox to go right into Lightroom. CC, you can't go direct. You have to go into Photos, and then they're supposed to have a Siri shortcut that automatically delete the photo. I'm just like, just all these workarounds.
Yeah.
When for the same price, you can buy a MacBook Pro, you could have C1 Pro, you could have Lightroom, Irident Developer, anything you want, and it works today. Yeah. So I'm all about mobile. I do most of my delivery from an iPad Pro or an iPhone when the clients need it in a hurry. And I think the iPad Pro is a great. It's cool to see Apple really just take it seriously more than before, but it just needs this. It just needs the software, and I think maybe iOS is the biggest bottleneck here.
Yeah, or the current iteration of iOS, right? So
right,
and you're right. It's software. It's a screen with an input and I/O and output and all that stuff. So they can make it do whatever they want to make it do. It's up to the software gods at Apple to make it do tricks. Clay, what about you, man? Are you? I mean, when you and I did our interview that published this week, when you and I did that interview, you mentioned that you traveled light when you went to Africa. And like one light, one camera, and you brought back some stunning saleable images, and I mean, you did the gig. So are you moving in that direction of getting lighter and maybe doing all your work on an iPhone, 10s Max or something? Like what's the lightest you're gonna get?
I've taken the mirrorless stuff over to some areas, some really like extreme environments and whatnot, and I'm kind of just like, kind of a pure, like an analog kind of guy. Still, like, I think it produces like mirrorless and like smaller cameras and compact cameras. And I know that's your world, Julio. But I deal with extreme scenarios and these stuff, and like, I just don't think the mirrorless is quite there yet to where I need. Like I can leave for example, I can leave a DSLR out in freezing temperatures all night to shoot a time lapse, right? And but I just don't trust a mirrorless to do so. So I'm trying to like find new ways to compact my kit as much as possible, that will basically live up to the extreme circumstances I put it through. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of finding where the threshold is and where that fence line is kind of these days. Sometimes it doesn't hit the mark and things fall apart and things get broken and trashed, and then some things hold up and it works great, and then I try to implement it in my workflow a lot. So I kind of have stuck with whatever is the most durable, and that's kind of what I've been doing. That's the MO as of recent, and I haven't found brand new technology quite yet that's really there. Everything's got a digital circuit, so you put it in these wet, swampy, random conditions, and things just happen to go wrong. So
yeah,
we'll see. I hope so. I want it to. I want to shoot smaller cameras, but.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's refreshing about having both of you guys on, because you're both of you are the antithesis of gear Luddite, or gear, what do you call it? Person that lusts after gear, the opposite of Luddite, right? So it's all about the work, and I did several interviews this week where that, without my prompting, that came up. It was just the idea of gear not being the end all be all, that the image, where we are all in service of the image. And most of them echo what you're saying, Clay, about most people that I've spoken to recently are echoing the idea of less is more. Like, what can I do to slim down my kit versus buying other stuff? I was talking to someone earlier about the new iPad, and they were like, "Are you going to get one?" I'm like, I barely use the one I have.
Right.
And I've got, it's great. I use it mostly on trips and stuff, and I want to keep it, but I don't see the need for a highly powerful, especially after I just got a new Mac. I don't see the need for an amazing new iMac or iPad that's going to do all this stuff. But then
is it I asked, like, is it materialism? Like, do we really need this stuff? I mean, I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's just a want,
Yeah.
It often
cool new stuff.
It often feels like the big tech companies are forcing us through clever marketing, really good marketing, to say, hey, the future of photography is smartphones and it is tablets. And it's like, I have the new iPhone. It's the best iPhone ever. I mean, why wouldn't it be? But it is not a dedicated camera, and it never will be. Even if the image quality was the same, let's pretend that the iPhone had the same quality. Let's just go crazy. Let's say as a phase 1, right? And you're like, damn, it's the same. But it's not the same because the handling is different. You can't tether and all these other things. There's a reason why people still use DSLRs when you need a bread and butter camera. It's because the system that it works into, and it's going to take years for mirrorless to get there. Now, I love mirrorless. I use them for my personal work. But when I have an assignment, it's like, okay, well, what's going to get the job done with the least amount of hurdles? I don't care about the brands. It's like, oh, this one can't tether, done. This one can't sync, done. And if we're working with a tech, and the tech has his or her own gear, and that fits the needs of the job, I prefer to use that because that way they manage it. They're used to the gear, and all I got to do is just focus on the creative stuff, which is truly, if people want to be separated from other photographers, it's all about the creativity. And I'm not talking about gimmicks and crazy lighting and stuff. It's like, it's all that, those are all ingredients, but and what instruments you have, because I don't think cameras are tools. I think they're instruments, like musical instruments. What instrument is going to get you to that vision? Maybe it's a phase. Maybe it's a Fuji. Maybe it is an iPhone. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you get it. It's good. If you're being paid, your clients are happy. You've made their jobs better. You're an asset to them. And you also have and then also if you were self-expressed as well, then it's a win-win. And then what happens is if we start being like, well, I got to use this product because I got to talk about it and I got to da-da-da-da-da, and then everything it just really affects poorly the work, and you're no longer an asset to the client, and all just starts to degrade. And then it's like, I've done assignments on a $400 mirrorless because it was fine for the job. Yeah. But I use, the last assignment I did, I used a 5D Mark IV because that's what I needed for that job. Yeah.
Well, how do you convince people to get off the gravy train of, less, or like Clay said, consumerism, or lusting after the next big thing? And we talk about this on the show a lot, but we're all geeks. We love the toys, the shiny object, and we get sucked into the reality distortion fields as like the next guy. But the twist is, we're supposed to be creating stuff, right? We're not supposed to be getting this new piece of technology to demonstrate it to our friends and followers. And I think that's what a lot of people end up doing, is like, hey, I got this brand new drone. Let me show you what I did with this brand new drone I did, versus, man, I had this shot that's burning the back of my skull that I got to get done, but I need this lens in order to do it. Let me save up, get that lens so I can do that shot that I need to do. Clay Cook, where'd that go? That feeling of, the tortured artist that has the shot or the image in their head that they have to get done, and will get it done by any means necessary, versus the other route of, hey, I bought a new paintbrush. Look at what it can do. What
I think it's the world we live in is just so heavily influenced on all the new toys and all the new cameras and all that stuff. And so as soon as somebody gets a camera and they produce great work, well, then somebody's going to assume, if they're influenced by somebody, that's the camera that did that. And so it's about like really telling people, and young people especially, I have interns that struggle with this a lot, where it's about coaching them to know that camera is just an instrument.
Yeah, I love that term, instrument.
Yeah, it's you nailed it there. It's just an instrument, and really the source of the picture is your eye and your creativity, you know? So it's about coaching that and being transparent in that world as much as possible, and coaching people like that's it. No, I think there are, like, you know, there's certain, you know, as you said, there's certain specific tools for certain, you know, aspects of every project, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just the nature of the world we live in, and everybody's influenced by, you know, all these different forms of media now. Yeah. And so it's not really a clear focused book as it used to be, you know.
It's normal. I mean, I think it's normal human behavior. Like if you get excited about photography, you're like, oh man, this is cool, and you're like, oh, I'm really inspired by Giulio Shorio's work. So what does Giulio shoot with? I'm going to buy everything Giulio has so I can be like Giulio, right? So people do that. Same with golf, same with cooking, same with whatever, you know, or biking. This you know, guy is a world-class biker. I want to buy the bike that he has so I can be like him. At least it'll increase my chances. But, you know, it's hard to break free from that, you know, because you can't go and say to somebody that's just jazzed about photography, hey man, don't think about the gear. It's all about the art that you don't know how to do yet, but it's all about that. So why don't you focus on that?
Well, I think first of all, we have to lower our expectations of technology companies, including camera companies, and understand that when they're marketing something new, it's not often that you have something that's a groundbreaking piece of equipment. I think that the last thing I can remember that was truly groundbreaking was a 5D Mark II, and that was kind of by accident. The Canon's like, oh, wait, what's going on? And then it was, you know, they haven't done anything since that I feel that was groundbreaking like that technology wise. But one thing we need to understand is that we don't have, I mean, I don't think even the three of us combined have the influence to get the majority of people that have cameras to not buy into the marketing. It's like, you know, but
it's part of the fun though. Yeah, but
it totally is. I love geeking out on this stuff. Like I love it, but I am an artist that uses a camera, and I think most people that have cameras are just camera owners. They're technicians and they're playing photographer. Just go on Instagram. You see all these people, they got these worn out Leicas, and they got these rad straps, and they're just beautiful looking. And then you see them taking pictures, and they're pulling out their phone, or kind of like snapping, or quite frankly, their photos suck. I mean, let's get real here. And they have a lot to learn, and that's fine. We all start somewhere, but I think people need to have a come to Jesus with themselves and be like, do I really want to put the effort in to be a good photographer, or am I happy being casual and just being a camera owner? You know, or there's no right or wrong to that, but I think people just need to really understand, are they playing photographer, or are they really being it? It's like, dude, I weigh 245 pounds, and it takes me about 11 minutes to run a mile. And I can go to like my sporting goods store, and I can come out looking like I'm ready just to crush some hoops, right? I can buy the $180 sneaks and the jumpsuit, put myself a headband on, and people are like, dude, this guy is serious, you know. And I can't shoot a hoop to save my life, but I'll look like it,
right?
You know,
right?
And photography's just become the same way. Or you go to Guitar Center and you come out, you look like you're ready to be in a band, and it's like, dude, I don't even know if this thing's in tune.
Yeah, it's like the whole fake it till you make it thing, or imposter syndrome, or whatever you want to call it.
We all have imposter syndrome at some level, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool, guys. I want to remind the audience in the chat room that we're going to be getting to the Q&A segment in a second here, right after the Picks of the Week segment. So if you have a question, Christopher Berry is in there. Hey, Chris, sorry for calling you out about you and your gear drama overseas. But Christopher Berry is in there fielding the questions and taking them from the chat room and putting them in the Google Doc, Troy Miller, that we're all looking at right now. And we'll get to those right after this next segment. I want to close this segment off with just sort of bringing it full circle. So this whole episode of This Week in Photo, Mind Your Own Business, is about productivity. So I want to sort of shift gears back to that and talk about the website side of things, right? So, and Clay, I'll start with you, man. So on the website, just what tool do you use for publishing your images out to the world, which are fantastic, by the way, and what and why did you choose that tool?
So like the platform?
Yeah, like platform, WordPress, Squarespace, you know, format, whatever.
Yeah, I use SmugMug. And honestly, like when I started shooting photography, 2011, there was a SmugMug club that was here locally in Louisville. And I just went there because it was a photography club, and
the Smugs, I remember those.
That's how I got involved with SmugMug, and I've kind of been there ever since. For my like workshops and some of my other sites I do, like my blog and stuff, it's Squarespace. Just because it's easy, honestly. I wish it was WordPress because I know the SEO is better on WordPress, but I just use Squarespace because it works for me. But yeah, my main website's on SmugMug. There's tons of other resources out there for people, but that's what I use. So
cool. All right, Julio Storio, what about you, man? What do you use for your web presence, and why?
First of all, I got to compliment Clay on his website. It is tight as a tiger. Like, dude, I went there. And it's got a very similar layout as what I've got. And mine's powered by Adobe Portfolio. But I've also had Squarespace. I had Photofolio. I had Live Books back in the day. I spent like 12 grand on that site. Remember?
Yeah, they got you.
Dude, they did get me, but you know, back in the day, if you weren't taken seriously unless you had a Live Book site for like a few years. So people be like, "Oh, it's powered by Flash," and you got an intro. I'm like, "That's because I'm a badass." And,
no, I think it was like, "Wow, you must be successful because you paid 12 grand for your website."
That too. I mean, it was just industry standard. But I got to say and I was with SmugMug, and right when they started, I want to say it was around 2006. It was cool. It was cool, but. I was like, when I saw Clay's site, I'm like, this is legit. I'm like looking at it. I'm like, the photos are great. Everything about it, the about page. Because I'm a fan of Clay's. I remember when I met you, I was like, oh, cool. You know, I think you were just doing stuff with f-stoppers. Then I was like, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I was like, damn, dude. Freaking Bruce Lee, like after he's been down and out, and he comes out and he's all red. He's like, whoa! And I was like, that's Clay. New headshot, new photos are busting out. Like seriously, dude, you got like the
Clay was like, enough of this. I mean,
when it's like when he's got like the 12 arms and stuff, and he's about to like bust through like the. I was like, wow. So I've been watching. No, dude, it's cool. Like seriously, I don't say this about many people, but been watching this happen online. I'm like, oh, what's next? So it's legit. And then I go on and check out the about page, and it says over a short period of time. And I was like, that's very accurate. It is. It's very accurate, but the site is legit. And then I was like,
change that soon.
Over kind of a short period, but no, I was like this, and I was like, oh, it's SmugMug. And I'm like, I think I want a SmugMug site. Because it's like it looks super good. And then you can order prints, and they process the credit cards. I'm like, so good. Yeah. Okay, so sorry. So my site. Okay, so
get a room, man. Get a room.
Yeah. So my site looks similar to Clay's, but the images are smaller. It's powered by Adobe Portfolio, which used to be Behance Pro site, which I beta tested some time ago, and it hasn't changed a ton. But what they've done with this last update. And Adobe doesn't talk about it too much, and they should. Basically, if you are using Lightroom CC, not Classic, CC, formerly known as Lightroom Mobile, and it's confusing still, but
I still don't get it.
When you put your photos into an album, you could say, and it's synced up and it's backed up on the cloud, which is pretty dope. You could say, make this into an Adobe Portfolio gallery, and it automatically pushes the Lightroom album through the cloud to Adobe Portfolio, and then it'll push it to Behance at the same time. So it's a really handy workflow. So I basically have done that for like my overview, and then the Vita La Vida pieces, and a bunch of the other newer projects that I've been shooting. And what's dope about this is now I'm like, okay, every 3 months I can basically redo my entire overview without having to have this crazy process. I can do it through some prints like I'm doing here on the wall. Then I can just reorganize it in the album in Creative Cloud and Lightroom CC, and hit refresh, and it'll refresh the entire site.
Nice.
And it's already optimized. I don't have to like export and upload. It's optimized, and it's a handy site. It's not a very sophisticated site. I hope Adobe develops it more because they have a lot of money and they can do it. But check it out. I mean, I think people should look at mine and look at Clay's because they're very similar in the design. And if you want to sell prints, I would say go with what Clay's got with Smug Mug. If you were deep into CC, then I would say check out ProSite. You already have it.
Yeah. There's tons of choices out there now for us, which is really good. And if folks didn't know, if you're living under a rock, you know that Smug Mug acquired Flickr. So they're making changes there as well, and hopefully we'll see more integrations down the line with the Flickr side of the house and the Smug Mug side of the house. But yeah, it's exciting time for photographers.
Does anybody remember Angel Fire or GeoCities?
Yeah. I was at Yahoo. I was working at Yahoo when Yahoo acquired GeoCities.
Really?
And then killed it. Yeah. Yeah.
I had a tripod site. I don't know if you guys remember Tripod. It was a competitor to GeoCities.
Yeah, that was back. I was like, wow, I can make a website, and it looks so great
with frames.
It didn't it didn't look good. That was like pre-MySpace, right? That was wow. All right, guys, let's move on. Let's move on to the picks of the week segment, and just FYI again, this was the Mind Your Own Business. This is part of the Mind Your Own Business segment or series that's going to be on This Week in Photo. This one was about productivity. The next ones will be about other things that go along with minding your own business. We covered some interesting topics in this one. We talked about travel. We talked about to-do lists. We talked about calendaring. We talked about safeguarding your gear when you're traveling, what to do, what not to do. Don't leave your stuff in the car, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to move on from that, get into the picks of the week. But once again, if you have questions for us, go ahead and put it in the chat. Chris Berry's in there fielding those. If you preface your question with @ This Week in Photo, it'll highlight it for Chris, and it'll make it easier for him to find it and get it out of there and put it into our in front of us on this side. All right, guys, let's dive in. Picks of the week. This is the segment where you guys get to pick something to recommend to the This Week in Photo audience. It could be anything related to photography, as long as it is, in fact, related to photography. Clay Cook, I'm gonna let you go first, man. This is your first pick of the week. What is Clay Cook's pick of the week for This Week in Photo?
Oh, that was the like anything photography related. All right, so I recommend all photographers and all cinematographers to go see the movie First Man.
First Man? What is it?
Yeah, that movie.
The one, First Man on the Moon, that one? Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's not really photography related, but it kind of is. I mean, it's like cinematography, really amazing sound, really amazing cinematography. I think the acting's great. Whether you're a conspiracy theorist or not, it's still a great movie. So I recommend that. And I just launched a new F-Stoppers article. I haven't written on F-Stoppers in about a year. So my last article was a year, literally this month ago. And it is on the 6 investments to level up your commercial photography business.
Nice.
So it's just things that I've kind of learned over the past few years that the industry, it's not widely available. I've actually learned it through consults with photo editors and people, art buyers and creative directors in the industry, and kind of how it works, because a lot of that information isn't really readily available. So I just launched that, and that is live now. So
very cool.
I guess that's mine.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for that pick of the week, man. And congratulations. You got through your first This Week in Photo pick of the week. So perfect. Julio Shoria, man, what about you? What is your pick of the week?
I just changed it because I was like, wait a second, business related. So
I saw you typing it in there.
I know. I'm like, what am I? Actually, it is BlinkBid. So for people that want to, do some educated bids for any kind of commercial photography, BlinkBid, in my opinion, is the standard. I want to say it's cloud-based now, but it's great. It helps you with terms and conditions, actually developing pricing, and I don't want to say it's industry standard, but it's kind of industry standard. If you're like on a photo editor and you're looking at the bids they put on there, it's usually the blink bid format. So because it's so ubiquitous in the commercial photography field, when you send it out, art buyers are used to seeing it, the format, and it's a lot easier for them to say, okay, well, this is G's bid, this is Frederick's bid, this is Clay's bid, and they can kind of look down the line items and then be like, yo, I want to hire Julio.
Can that be mine too? Because he's right. Blink bid's awesome.
It is awesome, and I've been using it since, God, I don't know, whenever they released it, and it was like running off of database software. I forgot the name of the database software, but the guy that started it, I think his name's Lou Lesko. Super nice guy, but the guy really cares. They really do care about the industry, which is refreshing, and it'll help you. It'll help you with your business, and it's not expensive. That's cool. So that's Blink Bid.
Blink Bid's awesome.
Perfect.
It is cloud-based now, by the way.
It is okay. Cool.
Yeah. What was it? It was software before. Now it's in the cloud.
Yeah, it's all cloud. It's awesome.
Cloud's where it's at. Speaking of cloud, my pick, I usually don't have a pick. I just let you guys run with it, but I have a pick today. So there's a service from a guy that I had on This Week in Photo a couple weeks ago. His name's Paul Mikolenko, and it's called Picker, P-I-C-R, P-I-C-R.com. So Picker is a CRM, or customer relationship management, cloud-based software designed for photographers. And what it does is it handles everything from the intake form on your website, like contact us for more pricing. So it handles that all the way through to invoicing, to contract signing, to billing and transaction processing, to hosting of your photos in a gallery for people to pick from. All of that stuff is handled right in there. And you know how if you go to most modern websites these days, in the lower right-hand corner, there's that little chat box that you can click on and start chatting with people. Sometimes there's somebody that answers, and sometimes it just fires off an email and they get back to you. That's built into it. That little thing by itself is like really like hundreds of dollars a month just to have that on your website, and they've added it into the software as part of the software. So you just grab JavaScript off their site, put it on your site, and now you have that little chat contact us button as part of the overall package. It's really cool. Yeah, that whole thing, it's what they're doing over there. And I met up with Paul when I was in New York for Photo Plus, and what they're doing is really cool. There's several CRM apps out there. Like there's one called Dubsado, there's one called Honeybook. Yeah, Honeybook, Tave. There's a bunch of them, and they're all like little children of Squarespace, or not Squarespace, but Salesforce, which is the granddaddy of customer relationship management software as a service apps. But these are targeted specifically at creatives, and Paul's is targeted specifically at photographers. Like it is unapologetically for photographers and by photographers. So yeah, I would definitely check that out. They've done a fantastic job with it. I've tried out all of them. I have trials on all of them. And the Picker one is, the user interface feels the most modern to me. It feels like it was designed recently versus 10 years ago and then sort of retrofitted to be more modern. It feels modern and lightweight and fast and young. So yeah, definitely check that out. It's called Picker, P-I-C-R, and that's my. I
agree, Frederick. I agree with you, man. I think it's pretty dope, the Picker service. I've been watching them since the get-go, and I'm like, all right. It just feels to me a little like if you're doing retail photography, it's like the bomb. I would say just go to it, especially with that. You had this like insane deal you emailed out this week, and I'm like, dude, I bet like a ton of people snatched that up.
I don't know exactly how many, because they were doing this end of month push for October because they were coming out of beta. And they wanted to have sort of a coming out party. So they were coming out of beta, and they wanted to sort of, make some specific numbers. So they did this ridiculous deal where they cut the price on the monthly price for just like that day. And they had a lifetime deal where if you pay a certain amount of money, then you get basically access for the rest of your life, which is ridiculous, right? So
wow,
yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's gone now. I think the deal's over now, but it is pretty fantastic that they were able to do that. And congratulations to those guys for coming out of beta. So All right, guys, let's dive into the Q&A. We got a good group of questions in here, and thank you, Chris Berry, for collating these for us. You are awesome. The first question up is from Trevor Pinaki. Trevor says, what are the people doing to stay healthy during travel? That recirculated airplane air is the worst. Voodoo dolls, incantations. Dude, Trevor, seriously, I'm still getting over a cold that I got from those giant flying petri dishes, and it's still in there, right? And you're absolutely right. That's recirculated air. I'm not doing anything except trying, you know, to not breathe and talk to other people, but it doesn't help because you're breathing the same air that they're exhaling. So I don't know. What do you guys do anything special? Do you take vitamin C packets or wear a mask or something like this on the planes?
I usually travel with Zicam, and I make it a point to not touch my face when I'm on the airplane. Like once I get into the chute, I forgot what it's called, the chute from the airport into the airplane, the metal square chute thing you walk through.
The
tube. So as soon as once foot's into the tube, after I scan my watch or whatever I'm scanning, I'm just like, I'm not touching this. I just don't do it. Mm-hmm. And I try, you know, it's always a gamble on Southwest. You sit there and like, dude, this is dope. No one's going to sit next to me. Then it's like some 400-pound dude and they're like all sweating on you. And you're just like,
yeah, you become a pillow. Yeah.
If you're at a trade show, I got this like Epson tchotchke thing with the juice in there.
That stuff, that hand sanitizer, I don't know. I think that's a placebo, to be honest with you, because I look at that as like super germ food. That's like vodka for germs. You know, like, oh, look at that stuff. Give me some of that Jack Daniels. You know?
Now that's the other thing too, is you could kill germs with vodka. Just
yeah,
you know,
there you go.
Tip.
Yeah, just marinate yourself in vodka when you fly.
And if you get sick, you won't feel it. So you know.
Exactly, you don't care.
The worst is when you start drinking. You're on like a super long flight, and you start drinking, and then you fall asleep, and you wake up hungover, and you're still on the flight.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's happened before. Clay, you have any tips, man, for not breathing germs?
I'm crazy with it. I get real crazy with it. You know, I try to keep myself completely sterile, like as much as possible. But yeah, I take a lot of supplements, zinc, D3, beta glucan. I can go down the list, man. I have like tons of supplements that I'd take when I travel. I don't eat the airplane food. I'd rather just fast and drink a ton of water. I basically try to keep my body like a chapel as much as possible when I fly. Yeah. And then as soon as I'm grounded, like it's different, but it just depends on where I'm traveling. But yeah, I try to supplement up and drink as much fluids as possible. The biggest thing for me is green tea. I drink a lot of like detox tea, a lot of milk thistle tea, a lot of these just really natural green teas that I just pound.
And that helps? All this stuff helps?
Oh, yeah. For me, it does. I've never gotten sick. So,
yeah, I mean, it couldn't hurt, right? I've gotten
sick after a trip, after a return, but I've never gotten sick on the way there. So, but that was only once. So
yeah, well, we need to. That could be a whole show, just like different remedies for not getting this crud. You know,
oregano tea.
Man, it's bad too.
Yeah.
The plane food just kind of grosses me out too.
Yeah.
Like
you don't know where any of that stuff comes from. Like you get on that plane, and I think every time I'm sitting in the gate waiting on the plane to show up, and I think about how quick they turn and burn those planes, and how many people get off, and how many people get on, and how many times that's happened a day. It's like no way. You'd have to like throw a Lysol bomb in that plane to even make a dent in it. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they say that the dirtiest parts is the actual pouch in front of you. Mm-hmm. Like that's the nastiest thing you can possibly touch.
Yeah. Or the remote control in your hotel room. That's the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Don't touch the remote control. Put a plastic bag on it, man. I'm telling you, you don't want to touch it.
Wow.
Yeah. Nastiness.
Oregano tea works good though. If you are in a pinch, you take some oregano, you just put in some hot water and you drink it. You'll sweat like a beast for like 30 minutes. So if you got a fever, it'll usually get it under control or break it.
Oregano?
Just oregano, yeah. Like a friend of mine that had malaria, in Africa, and she was like way out, and they just had some oregano, so she just knew to put it in, you know, some hot water. And
let's put this in there, folks. We are not doctors, so if you get malaria, don't go run to the grocery store and get some oregano and think it's gonna fix it. Go see a doctor, or else I don't want that loss.
Have you ever done the malaria pills?
Mm-mm.
Man,
you've done those? Because you have to. It's like a course you have to do, right? It's like you got to take one every several hours or something.
Yeah, and it's not cool. I did it once, and I'm like, I'll never do this again. I actually have never taken any medication when I travel ever again after that. So
it's like worse than the thing you're trying to prevent.
I'd rather just do supplements and try to keep it natural, you know.
Yeah.
Rather than medication. Anyway.
All right. Well, that was a good question, Trevor. Let's move on. Here's another question from Thomas Aaron. Thomas says, what editing software do these guys use? What's their favorite, or do they use a bunch of different ones? What do you guys use? What are you editing in? Capture One, Lightroom, Photoshop?
I'm Capture One. I have a retoucher that obviously uses Photoshop. But I don't really retouch. Like, I kind of just outsource most of it now. Mm-hmm. Just the skin stuff and the compositing, and then but I still do all the color grading. And it's all done in Capture One. I love Capture One for sure.
Nice. Gee, what about you? Capture One, Lightroom?
I use, how do I put this without sounding like a complete, well, I guess that doesn't matter. I use Lightroom, like, I feel like it's kind of an abusive relationship at this point. But I've been using Capture One since, 2007. We had a Hassie with it was like a leaf back, and it was like a 6 megapixel. It was like Ethernet, and you know, that whole deal. So I love the colors of Capture One. Like, you get it in, and it's like, you know, if you do your photography job right, it's like instantly it looks good. It tethers, like it's reliable. You don't have to go through like a Fuji thing, especially now if you're Fuji, you don't have to go through like a Fuji software and then into Tether or then into C1 Pro. It's dope.
Yeah, I hear really good things about Capture One. You know, people rave over the general consensus I hear about Capture One versus Lightroom is that it is much more powerful. People love the color that comes out of it. Obviously, the tethering. If you're a tethered shooter, then it's a no-brainer, and you're using a camera that's supported by Capture One. But also, I hear that along with power comes great responsibility. So it's powerful, but it's more complicated than Lightroom, or has a steeper learning curve.
It looks more complicated, but truthfully, once you get in, you could just take the tools and you can move them wherever you want. I mean, once you get in, it's just kind of like, it's not as complicated as it seems. The webinars may seem kind of complicated because they're done by like guys with English accents, so that usually sounds sophisticated, but it's not really that complicated. Another app that I use one with like the X Pro one and the earlier Fuji cameras is Irident Developer. I feel like it really pulls all the detail out of that. So I mean, I guess if someone doesn't want a subscription, you can do Capture One, but you could also do Irident Developer if you just don't want to go all in. Nice. But like BlinkBid, Capture One is the standard for commercial work, and then Lightroom seems to be the standard for like retail work, typically. And then I don't use Photoshop. I haven't touched Photoshop in so long. I just I use it more for like if I need to retouch like or not retouch, but like crop.
I was cursing Photoshop the other day, actually last night, because they upgraded to the latest version, and they changed. You know how the engineers have to just change stuff because why not, right?
Yeah.
So they changed the way that constrain scaling works. You know, normally if you Command T to transform and hold down Shift, that locks the aspect ratio so that you can drag and not distort. They switched it. So now if you Command T, it automatically will constrain. You have to press Shift in order to do a freeform. So I'm like pressing Shift and it's going freeform. I'm like, what happened? It took me like a half an hour to figure it out. I'm like, come on, really? Did we really need that? They just switched it. I'm like, do you really need that? Was that a feature, or are you just messing with it? All right, here's another question from Trevor Panaki. Trevor says, Is one of one of the reasons they travel to stay inspired or is one of the reasons they travel to stay inspired and get new ideas, or do they even travel specifically to avoid ruts and stay fresh? That's what Trey Ratcliffe does. So my friend Trey Ratcliffe just travels. He travels to make content to, for Stuck in Customs. But he also travels just because, he lives in ugly New Zealand. There's nothing beautiful to photograph in New Zealand. So he's got to leave the continent all the time. But what about you guys? Do you guys travel to stay inspired, or do you travel for just for clients? What do you think, Clay?
I mean, both. I mean, I didn't leave the country. I think we talked about this on the last podcast I did with you. I didn't leave the country until 2015, and then once I did, it was like crazy. Like I had the bug, and I had to do it just because it enriched not only me as a person, but also my work and my craft and all this stuff. So yeah, most of the time, mostly when I'm traveling now, it's because of a client. But I travel a lot. And if I didn't have a client, I would still probably do it. I think a good example is like, would you go to the same place without a camera, and you got to think about it that way, and if you would, then it's, that's meaningful. Like that's, a place that you go for personal reasons, and so I try to do both. Normally, if I travel without a camera, it's some beachy area, but it's very rare that I do. It's very rare.
G, what about you, man? Do you travel only for clients, or you travel for inspiration?
Since I've had my son, I've really been trying to do jobs here locally and trying to build up. I have been building up my network here in Austin. I just hate being away from Roman and from Val. But prior to that, I was on the road a ton. A lot of it was with Panasonic, which was an awesome experience. And then, a lot of it, when I had downtime, I would travel for assignments. But now I just travel. When I do travel, it's like, okay, cool. Where can I take Roman and where could we go? I think we're going to go to North Carolina to see family and around Christmas time. That's a lot of fun. And I can't go, like, if I go anywhere with even like here, like, it's right. Like I have one right here. Like sometimes actually I've actually had cameras on my nightstands. Like I don't know what it is. Yeah. Like if I carry one I carried it in my diaper bag. I'm like, I could get poop on it, but it would be okay because I could take pictures. I go out once in a while with just my iPhone and I just feel really weird.
Yeah, I'm just saying, G, if you travel with your camera in your diaper bag, that could definitely lead to some poopy shots or some crappy shots. Just saying.
It happens, but I tell you what, dude.
As dad humor.
Yeah, here's the deal. Like, if I can be shooting on this, and it's not going to be like, I'm not going to get a phone call and be like, hold on a sec, and be like, yeah, you can deliver the pizza. Yeah. Okay, that sounds okay. Great. Okay, and then you hang up, and then you get back to your shoot.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right. Well,
you should go to Asheville. You ever been to Asheville?
Oh, all the time. I love it.
What's Asheville? Asheville, where? Where is that?
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Asheville, North Carolina.
It's legit. It's Asheville, Austin, and Portland are very similar. I think Portland is more weird than Austin. Austin says they're weird, but we're just really just kind of plain in many ways. But Asheville is more weird than Portland. In many ways, more hippie, more hippie. But
all right, here's a rhetorical question from Thomas Aaron. He says, I guess he's referring to our discussion about gear and versus artist, being an artisan, and he says this seems kind of like asking why is it a 56 kilobaud modem or kilobit modem is good enough? Why do we need high-speed internet? Better tools help us to do jobs in different ways and more efficiently. Why not just do your job with an instant camera?
Oh, I'm ready to answer.
Go for it.
Yeah,
go for it.
Do it.
I'm all about better tools. But often a new tool comes out, and a lot of it brings barriers as much as it brings a promise of new things. Like we see those with Fuji cameras all the time. Not just Fuji anymore, but everybody that come out the camera like it's going to do all this, and you get it like it's not. Then there's a firmware update and a firmware update and another one and another one. You're about to go on a job, and there's a firmware update. And you're like, do I update it? Do I not update it? If I update it, it's going to crash. It's just like there's all that. And then I do use instant cameras. And I have the new Polaroid. I have an old Polaroid. I got Holga's. I have an Instax printer that I bring with me for street shooting because I can print to it right from my Fuji. So on the spot, I'll get a portrait of somebody. So let me give you a print. And in this day and age, when you make somebody a print on the spot in like 10 seconds, zzz, comes out, their like mouth opens up. They're just like they've never seen it before. It's like, is that Jesus? And like, no, it's a photo here.
It's an actual print. Have you heard of it?
And they're like, they go like this, and they shake it sometimes, and like, here's a business card. I like to give them something tangible. It's a nice human connection, especially in parts of the world where, they never even had that to begin with, really. And then with digital, it's just a nice way to connect with a human being. So I use Instax all the time. I buy like the 5-pack of film, and it's fun. It's fun.
Well, G, continue, because the next question is from Thomas Aaron. He says, specifically for G, what do you use the Instax for? I just bought one and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
So I have the SP2, which is like a little older version. I think they have the SP3 now, and then other printers.
And I have the SP1. So and
if you have a newer Fuji camera, like I have an X Pro 2 I'm using now, I can print directly from that to the printer. So if you're doing a street shoot and you're meeting people on the street, it's just kind of cool. I photograph self-expression and diversity. So when I see people, I'm like, wow, you look awesome. And because here's a tip for everybody: if someone's out and they got a purple afro, they're not trying to hide out. They want to be noticed. So I'm just like, oh, your purple afro looks great. Let me get a portrait of you. And here's a print. And then here's my card. And if you want a copy, I'll be happy to give you a copy. And that's what I use it for that. And on shoots, I just leave it out. And whoever has the app, they can print a bunch of photos and just have fun.
Nice.
And so often, like you're like in these fashion shoots and no one smiles. They're just like, I don't do fashion shoots anymore. You gotta have fun. Cool. Yeah, no, it's just fun. It's just it's a fun element. And I have an Instax camera. I'm looking at it now, the Lomography one that was kickstarted a few years ago, and I give that to my son, and he'll just go around and he's 2 years old. He's like taking pictures or whatever, and after I spend like $40 in film. I watch it shooting out. I'm like, all right, well, let's just do some air, and
that film is no joke, man. Seriously,
that's such a great idea to take that little camera and do some street stuff with. I mean, that can like change someone's life, especially if you're in the different country or something like that and can't speak to them. Like that's an ultimate language right there is photography, and having that instant sort of tangible device or delivery device is awesome. That's super cool.
Yep.
I love it.
And if someone does steal it, it's not a lot of money. So it's just like,
yeah, they're not that expensive. But that film, that paper can get up there, especially if you're letting Roman get his hands on it.
Yeah, it's about $1, I say, a print for Instax. I have the Polaroid, and they're about $2, and they're not consistent. So I would tell people just to do the Instax for now.
Yeah.
I bought one, but it was a gift for my nephew, so he probably broke it by now, I'm sure.
All right, guys. Chip Riggs says, what do you guys use for keeping your books in billing?
I use QuickBooks, and that actually syncs to BlinkBid, believe it or not. So my producer, he'll work with BlinkBid on all my estimates and stuff like that, and then he'll share that with me, because now it's all cloud-based, and then I'll sync that to QuickBooks, and I'll do a lot of my accounting and stuff like, I do all my accounting in QuickBooks, and then I do expense reports and all that stuff pretty much all through there. It's all QuickBooks Online. Everything is on cloud now. It's changed over the years.
Nice.
So
nice.
That's what I do.
What about you, G? What do you use for accounting?
The same, QuickBooks Online, and then BlinkBid. I did not know they connected. Thank you.
So QuickBooks Online connects to BlinkBid, which is also in the cloud.
Cloud-based, yeah.
It's like a one-way sync.
It's kind a push
of thing,
then.
So
okay.
it's not really that great right now, but it's there. I think it'll get there, but yeah, it's one of those things where you just like send to QuickBooks, and then it automatically creates an invoice or estimate or whatever you want it to create. So
cool.
Yeah, if you are considering QuickBooks, it's really good, but make sure that you have an accountant and a CPA that uses it already, that you like using. If they use like Xero or something else, just use what is good for them, whatever your bookkeeper wants you to use. Okay. I had switched from QuickBooks desktop to online, and like immediately, and it was a freaking nightmare, and it cost me thousands of dollars.
Jeez. Okay,
so you have to be careful. We put in like 10 years of books, and we put it in the wrong way, and then they're like, we had the wrong plan. They're like, well, once you get into this plan, you can't go back to the other plan unless you get a PC and you download it, and then you have to re-upload it. I'm like, I have to go buy a PC, like a Windows computer. I'm like, this makes like no. So like 2 years later, they figured it out. It was like I had to go through engineers. So just go slow with QuickBooks and do what your CPA tells you to do, and have them set up the books for you so that it works for them, because you'll save money when it comes tax time. It's
sage advice. All right, so the last question is from Chris Berry. So Chris Berry wants to know, do you have any travel workshops planned for 2019? And how do you approach aligning yourself with nonprofits to do travel and documentary work and photo and video work? Clay, you want to take that one?
So I don't really have any workshops planned. Is it workshops? Is what he said? It kind of broke up there.
Yeah. Do you have any travel workshops planned for 2019? And how do you work with nonprofits?
Yeah, I don't have any workshops planned. I do have some educational stuff planned for 2019. I'm going to kind of dip my fingers back into it a little bit. I kind of stepped away this past year just to like focus on my actual craft and work and marketing plan. But so no workshops planned at this time. As far as working with nonprofits, you kind of just got to get in that sort of machine and get in that wheelhouse, and just find something you're passionate about. Find a topic that you really sort of drives you, and start shooting. And people will notice and start, just like your work, start delivering that and marketing that and putting it out there as something that you're personally attached to, and people will notice. And then once you start doing one nonprofit job, then you kind of get in that wheel, and people talk to their colleagues, and word of mouth is a great form of marketing. Now, there's little to no money in nonprofits. So if you're getting in there and trying to make money and get clientele, it doesn't work.
It's the wrong reasons.
Yeah. It's you're in the wrong business there. So you have to do it because it personally drives you more than anything else.
Perfect. Very cool. G, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, actually, I agree with everything that Clay said. And, if you see my website now, there's like no commercial work you may have seen in the past. Like I got no cinemagraphs on there. I got no video work, because I did some assignment work last year with a nonprofit. I'm like, oh, this feels really good. We're helping various communities around Austin and make it a statement. And we built this giant table and put with people's messages on there, what they want to see the future of Austin. We basically put it in this park really close to the Capitol building, and it has had such a positive impact on various communities that are that don't really have much of a voice. And I documented it all with photos, and it felt great. So then I kind of transitioned everything. I'm like what Clay is saying, there's not a lot of money in it, but if you really just kind of you run a tight ship, I don't have any staff, just myself, and I outsource when I need to, and I'm shooting. I have very light gear, and I just rent when I need to, or I'll use my X Pro 2, and I'm like, stick with that unless I need other stuff. So I've been able to do pretty much everything with I'm on my third shoot with the museum. I'm talking to some other nonprofits and stuff, but it's fun. It does sometimes, I'm an emotional person. It hits me sometimes emotionally, and I'm glad I got out of focus because I can't see so well right now. But it's rewarding work. And so I would say if that's something that you're interested in, Christopher, like what Clay said, shoot the work that you love. I think documentary and street are a great vessel to focus on, because you're storytelling. and you could help people with your photography in that regard, to tell their stories and then kind of show that work. And it's the type of work that you're not going to do a lot of retouching with typically.
Sure.
Not all the time.
No,
It
not a lot
depends
of
on your
processing.
right. Because you want to represent people in an authentic and honest way, and you want to come at it with the standpoint of compassion and empathy for who's in front of the camera, because they're often dealing with some serious, sometimes life-threatening stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to, and Christopher, if you want to see some amazing work, check out Mia Collis. We just did a episode of The Language of Photography on her in small cameras. So amazing work documenting people that were putting their lives on the line in Africa to save elephants and poachers and the heroin trade in Kenya. And she's got this photo of this drug dealer with his son, who's like 3 years old, looking up at this. You can see this arm coming down, this guy injecting. It's like super intense stuff. But check out her work. As far as workshops, I may be doing some stuff with Out of Chicago in April, cool. And maybe some stuff with PhotoCon next year. We're kind of in Phoenix. We're talking, so hopefully, I'd love to come back and teach people in person.
Love it. Love it. Cool. Keep them busy. Everyone's keeping busy. That is fantastic. Guys, we went a little bit long today, about 30 minutes or so. But it was a good conversation. I don't mind. You know what? I'm inspired by Joe Rogan's podcast, and he goes 3 hours sometimes. So, I'm okay with it.
I watched the Lance Armstrong one today.
Oh, did you?
Oh, I didn't see it. How was it?
It was a good one. It's an old one.
It's old, yeah. Did you see the Elon Musk episode with Elon smoking weed on the podcast?
Amazing.
Tanking the Tesla stock with the CBD. Look at that. All right, guys. Let's wrap this up. Julio Shorio, where would you like TWiP folks to go to check you out and connect with you offline?
Just go to scbp.co.
SCBP, that's acronym for Small Camera Big Picture.
Right, or go to smallcamerabigpicture.com. You can read about the community. If you apply, which is free, we are looking at select individuals that can come into the community, and then if you want to take the courses, you can.
Nice. Exclusivity. Look at you.
Well, we want the right people in, just like with TWiP Pro. We want you want the right people in. So we just want to be picky.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, the analogy I use for TWiP Pro is that, I use that whole airport analogy where, the SFO, the airport here in San Francisco is giant. You could go into the airport and sit at the gate and play on your iPad, or you could go into the airport lounge if you have access, and they got all kinds of cool stuff in there. But it costs a little bit, so. Clay Cook, what about you, man? If people want to connect with you and learn more about Clay Cook's adventures, where should they go?
Just Clay Cook Photo across the board. Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, the whole works as Clay Cook Photo, claycookphoto.com. My blog is clay-cook.com because, there's a Clay Cook down in Nashville that is a Grammy winner, and we're not going to get into that, though.
Wait a minute. That's not you?
Yeah. Just Google Clay Cook, and he's written songs with John Mayer and done all sorts of amazing stuff, and he's a musician. And I've tweeted at him so much. I'm like, why don't we do a photo shoot? And it would be the Clay Cook SEO explodes.
It's SEO inception.
he never responded.
Of course not.
Maybe one day.
Well, cool, guys. But, yeah. So we got. I'll put all the links to both of your stuff in the blog post and everything for the episode. So, cool. Thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it. You guys rocked it. Very cool. Even though we ran a little bit long. And This Week in Photo watchers, listeners, remember you can stay up to date on all things photography. Just head over to thisweekinphoto.com. If you want to subscribe to our podcast, just go to thisweekinphoto.com/subscribe. And you can subscribe to us on YouTube as well. Plus, we're everywhere. We're on iTunes, we're on Google, we're on Stitcher, we're on Spotify, on and on and on and on. So wherever you like to listen and watch stuff, we're probably there. All right, that's it for this episode of This Week in Photo, folks. It is time to take that lens cap off. This is TWiP.